Hello everyone and salutations. I hope you're all in good health and faith. It's a very early morning here. I think it's about 7 a.m. or so on my side. The sun has just popped up and so actually it's probably past 7. I haven't checked the time. But the long story short is I've just woke up and yesterday was the last day bleeding in this cycle. So as promised, I was going to do a cloth pad wash routine. Like there are different ways that I wash my cloth pads, to be honest. It really depends on my mood. But because I wanted to do this video, I intentionally left these cloth pads to dry. And I'm coming to you today to show you how I'm going to wash the ones that I used on this cycle. So for those of you who don't know, my name is Augustina. I have my business called We Live Our Values, and a main part that I do is activism, education about the menstrual cycle, period positivity, reusable menstrual products in general, and then other eco-friendly alternatives. I love everything menstruation related, vagina related, and environment related. After all, everything is connected in one way or another. And I just really like to let people know that there are alternatives and that we should really be paying more attention to what our bodies are telling us. I have used reusable cloth pads since I was probably 14 or so, and other reusable menstrual products. If there's a reusable menstrual product out there, I have used it, whether it's external or internal protection. I've probably tried it out. Maybe not specific brands, but the general idea, you get what I mean. I don't really let my cloth pads dry out. Like as soon as I've used one, if I'm at home, I do the cold rinse immediately, right? And if I'm out and about and I'm using a cloth pad that day, I go ahead and put the cloth pad into the wet bag until I get home and I do the cold rinse immediately. Then I throw it into my basket to let it wait until I'm ready to do my laundry. So that's the main way that I do it. But I wanted to show this way because I understand that for a lot of people starting out with cloth pads, having a proper wash routine and steps and everything can be quite difficult for some people to get into. And I wanted to show one of my lazy ways. So if I'm feeling really lazy, I go for this method. Now, I will let you know that on these pads that I have here, they have been used, so there is blood on them. I am not going to apologize if you're uncomfortable by seeing soiled pads. I'm not going to apologize because we all have to get used to being uncomfortable. But this is your warning now. If you do not want to see soiled pads and blood, get out. Yeah? Yeah, I really try to have the uncomfortable discussions and be uncomfortable. You know why? Because people are dying from embarrassment and it's a serious thing. We're too embarrassed to even get help when something's wrong, and that shouldn't be the way, So what's basically been happening is I haven't used that many pads this cycle. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of them. I've been using the cup mostly throughout the day. I used my cloth pads. Nighttime, I used cloth pad, and one of them, I actually used this one on a heavy day. I wasn't having a good time, right? So, should we get started? Yeah, we'll get started. What I've been doing is, when I've used these cloth pads, in my room, I have a basket, right? And inside the basket, I've put a cotton sheet on the inside of the basket so that there's still airflow. Some people like to leave their pads in a bucket, soaking in a bucket. I will talk about different wash routines down the line because we're focusing on this one right now. And then maybe the next cycle, I will do another one. And the next cycle, I'll do another one and another one and another one, right? So it's very important that your pads get airflow. One, like as I can smell, I don't smell anything coming from my pads, right? Because they've had plenty of air going through. I've basically been throwing them in. And then now I've taken them out of the basket. And what I have in front of me, a container that I've put cold water and salt. Now, salt is really good for drawing out stains from material, especially absorbent material. There are other ways you can do this, but I'm talking about this way right now. Usually what people like to do is to make a paste from the salt and apply it onto the cloth pad if there are any stains, but it's just full, not completely to the top, but it's got enough water in there, cold water and salt. Now, because the weather is cold, my cold water is freezing cold water. Okay, let me show you that right now. Okay, so here is a container that I have with cold water and salt. As you can see, it's not filled all the way to the top. I don't see the need for filling it all the way to the top because I don't have that many pads. You can use a basin, you can use your sink. I live in a shared apartment, so using the sink isn't going to be a nice experience for my housemates if they go into the bathroom and see my pads just floating there, right? Now, one thing I like doing is I like to look at my pads, right? And I like to inspect and see the patterns that my blood has made. And it sounds really strange, but I find it a really therapeutic thing for me, connecting to myself, connecting to my bleeds, connecting to my body, you know, just thinking. And as I'm cleaning my cloth pads and such, I also like to have as many positive thoughts as possible whilst I'm doing them. It is a form of self-care for me, taking care of my pads that I use for my bleed. You know, I really like the feeling I get when I'm doing it. And I know it's not going to be the same for everyone, but I like to do things intentionally, and my cloth pads are one of them. So here are my pads. And like I said, there is blood on these. So if you don't want to see, your last chance to get lost, okay? So now that you've got your warning, I don't want to see any comments telling me that this is disgusting or whatever. Negative language towards anything period related, I'm not up for it, okay? So I would actually just delete the comments. or just leave it there for people to see why I'm doing what I do. So I use this one. This is a velvet cloth pad that I used, and you can see, like, you can barely see the blood on there, right? And I have, this one was a really messy time, and I actually leaked off the edge. You can see here, you can see the leak. And on this day, I actually had some blood clots as well. Usually on my bleed, I don't have huge clots. I usually see the clots in my menstrual cup, but on the actual pads, I don't usually get the clots coming out. But you can see on this day, I definitely had clotting, and it was a really heavy day, and I overran the pad, and it was a mess. I've got my cock ones as well. This was the day where my menstrual cup was not cooperating with me and I was away from home, so I had no other choice but to use this. I always carry a spare pad with me anyway, and it always tends to be this cock one because I like cocks. This is another one. You can see, look, bleeding at the front. Now, I'm at the point where I don't care if I leak off my pad. I really don't, because I'm mostly at home, right? But if I was out and about, that would be an issue for me. But if I was out and about, I would wear tighter underwear than I do at home anyway, just to give it that extra security. Usually what happens when things are leaking off, in my case, is I'm doing movements, but the underwear that I have for my pad isn't really matching. So if you find that experience, that's probably one of the reasons. Wear tighter underwear. And also, I do use interlabial pads. Interlabial pads are something you can just roll or fold and place in between your labia, which will help direct the flow to the middle of the pad. But I didn't use them because it was, I didn't use them. I'm at home and sometimes I don't feel like doing that. So yeah, this one seems to be more centered right in the middle. That's another question. So some of you don't understand what I mean when I say, how do you bleed, right? look at your pad. Where is the blood going? That will help you know what kind of shape and coverage you require. So this is right in the middle, barely off the wings. That probably happened when I was taking it off. This one, you can barely see anything in there. Okay, this was one of the earlier ones as well. I was laying down on my stomach and it just bled more towards the front and went over. So with the good thing of this kind of shape is, if I was being careful, I could, and I was being conscious about when I put my pad on, if I was planning to lie on my stomach, I could have just turned it around and put it this way at the front, and then it would have caught everything. But I wasn't planning to lie down on my stomach. I just did. This one, you can't see anything. I think I wore this pad yesterday and it was dry. But the moment I took the pad off, there was still a little bit of blood, so I don't understand. And this is one of the Monster Pad experiments that I made. And I wore this overnight for a whopping 10 hours and it caught every damn thing in here. You know, it was monsters. So I'm going to turn the camera around once more and I'm going to show you how I'm going to place them into this water. Okay. So in this cold water, I am going to place my pads facing down. So the blood basically will fall out. And I'm going to put the most bloody ones first, facing down. And what you want to do is kind of, you can see the fleece. Like I always tell people are conscious about fleece. It is moisture resistant. You can see how the water isn't actually getting in until I add some compression. The most common type of leaking is through the sides or through the wings, okay? But through the actual pad, through the back, not really. But that's also why I don't use PUL. I don't like the sound it makes as I walk. Like most people don't even notice, but if you have any form of sensory issues or sensitivity to sound and noise, you might notice that PUL can have, you probably hear it more than anyone else, or I feel it in my teeth, and therefore that's why I don't really like sewing with PUL, and I don't put PUL in my pads. So, but there are sellers out there, if PUL is what you want and require, and you want that extra security, there are people who do that, and that's definitely an option, okay? So I'm not doing my usual thoughts because I'm doing the video, but I like to wish myself health. I like to wish myself health, ease, peace of mind, heart, and body. A healthy menstrual cycle. To be more in touch with my cycle in general and use the energy that I get throughout the month at different points for their best uses. So if you want to make it more of a connecting thing for yourself, you can come up with your own stuff you want to say. But I just do it as a way to be more in touch and connected. I don't just like getting it out of the way like all of the adverts like to show us that we should be doing. Getting it out of the way, hiding it away, ignoring it. You know, it's a very significant part of my life. I do it every single month for days. And it used to be quite traumatic for me, you know. When I first started, it was very traumatic, but over time, not so much. So you can see the blood is coming out, right? So I keep on going, press, press, press. And What I will do is I'm going to leave this to soak for an hour or so. Now you can leave it for longer, but I know that with my blood, it doesn't really set stains in. Okay, so I know that for me it's not necessary. But for you, like, you might want to start with 4 hours, 3 to 4 hours. You can change the water throughout. I'm just going to do a soak for 1 hour, and then I'll come back and finish it off, really. I'll be back. I know I said 1 hour, but it's so cold I ended up going back to bed and snoozing. So it's actually been about 3 hours now. So let's go and check how my pads are looking. Now, how's that for period red? So that's all the blood. I almost feel like I'm a vampire right about now. So different people do different things with their blood, right? I know some paint with it. Some put it in their plants. I've even heard of people cooking with their blood, but I'll make no comment on that. And so as you can see, like, the blood is pretty much out. For some reason, I never really have a staining issue. Oh, see? You can barely see. Now, one thing I should mention that's very important, when you are doing this to your pads, let me adjust myself. There we are. When you are doing this, it's important not to twist them. You want to kind of do like a squeezing motion. The reason why is if you twist them, you basically will shorten the life of your pads. They will eventually, like, the threads will wear out if you twist them or you're too rough with them. So you kind of want to do a squeezing motion. Some people like to roll and squeeze it that way. I do that a few times whilst it's still in here. I will change the water. So I don't do anything special with my blood. I am going to pour it all into the toilet. But just so you know, if there are things, like if you wanted to play with your blood, I mean, I have no issue. It's mine. It came from me. It gives life, you know. I can form a whole human in my body because of this blood. Basically, I don't do anything too vigorous other than playing with it. What I can do as well is just rinse it out under the tap, under running water, until the water kind of runs clear. So if you want, at this point, you could just do a hand wash instead, but I do have some clothes that I want to wash, so I'm going to throw it in with the rest of my clothes. See, not complicated. Okay, so this bathroom, for some reason, the light isn't working now, so I'm filming in the dark. But the idea, let me pull up my sleeve, is to give each one a quick rinse. Like, I am not too vigorous, but I just want, like, the water to either be clear or pinky, I guess. Container. So you can actually see on here, like, the blood that was there previously, like I knew with my blood, there's no stain, right? But if it's a different case for you, you can do like the salt paste that I mentioned, or you can do an OxiClean scrub. If you have an old toothbrush, you can use that as well to work at the stains. You can buy a stain stick as well. There are many ways you can use peroxide. There are many ways to combat stains. But if you really don't care about stains, like look, here we are, there's a little bit of a stain there. In my case, I really don't care. It's barely noticeable, you can barely notice it. So it's sufficient for me to just rinse it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments so far. If you've made it this far in the video, you're a rock star, okay? It's uncomfortable for me showing my pads. It's good to get comfortable being uncomfortable, you know? Because I know just how much of a difference it makes to normalize talking about these things in a very frank manner. So I make no apologies. I'm not saying sorry. The only apology I'm going to give is if you watch this knowing that you don't like seeing this kind of thing and you ignored my warning, that's on you. But no apologies for the actual content. It is what it is. Right. I think I can turn off that tap. Don't want to waste too much water. Already wasting a lot. So if I didn't have a washing machine, I'd hand wash this right now. We've finished rinsing them, and yeah, I'm going to show you how they look. To be honest, my pads, they smell kind of sweet, and my Instagram. Sweet smell of your blood indicates very acidic environment, or more acidic than usual environment in your vagina. You know the vagina is acidic, right? So yeah, it smells a bit on the sweet side, but it's okay. So now this will be completely acceptable to throw in the wash at a between 40 and 60 degrees temperature. I use a bio washing powder. I only put a little bit. I don't think you need that much soap, like suds. I've just thrown it in the washing machine with some of the rest of my clothes that I'm going to do today. The weather looks really good, so it's not going to take too long to dry. I've decided that I'm not going to include the finished picture in this video because the video is going on for a lot longer than I thought it would go on for, right? So I'll just post a picture on my Instagram once it's ready. If you're not following my Instagram already, make sure to follow Live Our Values. And yeah, thanks for coming along with me on this journey of a lazy cloth pad washing routine on a nice cold Saturday in Ireland. If you have any questions, you know how to reach me, give me a shout. If you have any observations you'd like to share, go ahead and share those observations. If you think someone might enjoy watching this video, of course you know what to do. Let them know I exist. And yeah, let's just get comfortable, right? We have to get comfortable. It's going on for too long now, all the secrecy and the hiding away and getting it out of the way thing. It's very real and it happens and it is what it is, right? So periods are not dirty. Menstruation is not dirty. It's not disgusting. And yeah, thanks for watching. Bye.